Just start doing recording. The name of our today's session is Implementing the Holistic Support Center and Ethnopsychology Approaches in the Integration of Refugee Women from Concept to Practice. So our agenda looks like that. We're gonna start from the introduction of the WISE project and the introduction about Holistic Support Center model. We will talk about how to establish the Holistic Support Center, about key steps and roles like cultural mediators, facilitators, caseworkers, and psychologists. We will talk about creating safe spaces and inclusive environments within Holistic Support Center, mental health and ethnopsychology approaches, and of course we will finalize with a Q&A session, as I mentioned, and we will ask you to complete the satisfaction survey, and also we will invite you to join our next 3 webinars under this series. Now, I would like to introduce our speakers. Sara Bonfanti, Head of Programs from your International Rescue Committee, Italy. She experienced in refugee resettlements, migration research. She has PhD in development economics. Maria Chomarova, this is our second speaker, which comes from Animus Association from Bulgaria. She is mental health expert, senior psychologist and psychoanalyst, mental health, gender-based violence, and trauma-informed care. This is the topic that she's doing now. And Daria Rostirola, a psychotherapist with psychoanalytic orientation and medical anthropologist from Laboratorio di Gruppo Analisi, and Ginevra Musella, psychologist and psychotherapist, specialized in individual and group psychoanalytical therapy based in Milan from Centro Pench. Now I will give a floor to our first speaker, Sara Bonfanti, and she will present us the brief introduction to the WISE project and Holistic Support Center model. Thank you so much, Sara. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet all of you. I'm Sara Bonfanti. And as Olga mentioned, I'm head of programs with the IRC in Italy, and I'm based in Milan. I will briefly introduce the WISE project, and we'll start giving you a few information about our holistic center model. So first of all, the WISE project was written in response to a call for proposal from the European Social Fund Agency. The call focused on innovative approaches to mitigate the societal consequences of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine within EU countries. The project implementation started about a year ago on April 10th, 2025, and is ending in about 5 months on October 10th for an overall duration of 18 months. Time has flown by the way. I cannot believe we're already 1 year in. The project is implemented in 2 countries, Italy and Bulgaria. In Italy, in 3 different locations, Milan, Rome, and Turin, while in Bulgaria, activities are implemented in Sofia. Dissemination is carried out Europe-wide, thanks to our amazing partner, Erlal. Here I have a brief overview of the partners involved. I've already mentioned a few of them. So we have 2 CSOs, IRC Italy and an Animus Association Foundation that implement activities in Italy and Bulgaria respectively. We have 2 partners specialized on providing mental health services, Center Pench in Milan and Turin, and laboratorio.
Excuse me, Julia, could you please mute your microphone? Thank you.
Thanks. So I was saying the other partner specialized in mental health in Italy is Laboratorio di Gruppo Analisi that works in Rome. And then we have a skill lab with the specific task of developing, testing, and adjusting an AI-powered skills assessment tool. And finally, Erlal, which, as I mentioned, takes care of dissemination, communication, and scaling up activities. So overall, the very broad and I would say ambitious goal of our WISE project is that of improving socioeconomic inclusion of employable refugee women from Ukraine in Italy and Bulgaria. Um, of course, as I said, this is a very broad goal. We have some more specific objectives. The first one focusing on improving access and advancing labor market integration for women in host countries, Italy and Bulgaria, but also potentially in Ukraine labor market for women who voluntarily might decide to move back to Ukraine. And to do this, obviously, we have to work on women's agency, skills, and knowledge. The second objective focuses on enabling, improving women's ability to navigate and access social and public services. The third one is about their psychological well-being and mental health, their social connection and their empowerment so that they can make informed decisions about their future from a place of mental wellness and stability. And the fourth one, which of course is the one we are working on today, is the objective of increasing awareness among key stakeholders, both at the local levels and today at the EU level, about the holistic support center model, because we would like to encourage the adoption of this model and of the innovative approaches that are connected to this model by other actors to improve refugee women's socioeconomic inclusion. So what is this holistic support center model that I've mentioned a few times? So the model basically has women and their children at the center and draws on the experience of the IRC, Animus, and also Laboratorio di Gruppo Analysis on the Women's and Girls' Spaces methodology. So in different ways, for different periods of time, these three partners have worked with this methodology, which was initially developed by IRC in other contexts, in other, especially in crisis contexts, and proved to be very effective in supporting women. Since it provides with safe and supportive environments for women where they can foster peer support, develop social connections, and basically share with other women in an environment where they feel comfortable at ease. This was our starting point. To this element, we've added the concept of the one-stop shop model, mainly a hub, a place where women can receive directly or indirectly all the services, they can access all the services that they need for socioeconomic inclusion. Many services are delivered internally by our staff. Others can be accessed thanks to referrals and info provision. What are the services, the activities that are offered? How are they identified? It's very important in this model that we tailor services, activities to the specific needs of each woman. And for this purpose, we develop comprehensive integration plans through which, first of all, specific needs are identified and consequently services and interventions to respond to these needs. We then provide a comprehensive set of activities that can also take the form of group activities, and they can be structured, semi-structured, or unstructured group activities. Among these activities that are co-developed, chosen together with women, so they're not just, imposed with a sort of a top-down approach, we have proposed the Women Rise Toolkit, which has a very specific empowerment and gender transformative approach. Overall, and I will close here, and of course I'm then available for any question you might have. by combining all these elements, all these ingredients, what we're able to offer is a holistic approach that combines mental health and psychosocial support through individual and group activities, complemented by employment support, which is enabled also by this AI-powered digital tool that has been developed by Skill Lab and adapted to the specific needs and characteristics of refugee women for this specific project. And I think I will now give the floor to
Yeah, thank you so much, Sara, for your
Maria.
presentation. Yeah, now we are inviting Maria Chumarova for the part about how to establish a holistic support center. Maria, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My name is Maria Chomarova and I'm a psychoanalyst. And in this project, I played the role of a methodological support and supervisor, the whole team, which works directly with women. So, yeah, actually, Sarah already talked about all these different services the Holistic Support Center provides, and I will not waste time to actually to talk more about it. The thing is that we have, as she mentioned, one-stop center, and this is not only mental health center, but also women feels at home in this center. It's their club, their space, community. We celebrate sometimes their personal celebrations, but also they get employment support and they get information, they get legal aid. And of course, they have all information about services they can be referred, as well as social support, including helping them access educational system, health system, and not just for themselves, but for their children as well when they arrive in Bulgaria. Of course, in an ideal situation, the better is to assess the needs of community beforehand, before you establish the center. However, even after that, we still need to talk to women and to include them in the planning of the activities, because the activities I mentioned before, they are already planned, and we planned in advance how many sessions we would have for integration, cultural integration, or economic support, and psychosocial support, and psychological group sessions. But there's still a lot of room to modify and to adjust the program according to their needs. And it is important that we stay close to them and to include them in preparation of the monthly program. Yes. The center itself, it's to choose a place, it is important. First of all, it needs to be communicative, easy transport. It should be safe, so women should come and go by themselves safely. Accessible, of course, and welcoming and child friendly, which means that you need at least 3 rooms, and basically preferably a kitchen, one big hall, because we need to gather together as many women as possible for group sessions. When we organize information sessions and invite more people, you can rent eventually
Excuse me, Julia. Yeah, okay. Thank you for muted.
But it's very helpful to have a larger room in order um, to accommodate all participants in weekly based activities. You need for sure a separate counseling room with separate, with the door which closes and totally private, confidential for individual sessions, psychosocial sessions or psychotherapeutic sessions, psychological support, because this is private, this is confidential, and you need this separate room. And you need a room for children with some toys, since it's better that women can come with the children, so they actually could use the space even after the nursery hours, since our center works mainly after work hours. The main of one of the goals of the project is to find these women work, and we actually succeeded. Um, Service include education. Women chose, for example, to study Bulgarian language in high level, also English. Other vocational trainings might be included depending on the needs of women. Definitely mental health support, since whatever you offer women, sometimes they cannot use the all opportunities our society offers them. If they feel down, they feel depressed, they feel that they cannot use all the opportunities. So mental health is very important to support it and to increase the internal capacity to use external resources, healthcare, including information about their health, visitors, and access to services, legal aid, very important about their migrant status. We had some problems here in Bulgaria. Every country has its specific employment services, for sure. It's one of the focus of the project. And emergency contacts we include as well there. Obviously, a multidisciplinary team is necessary to acquire in order to provide all these services. We in Bulgaria have one leader of the center who is a facilitator of daily group activities and who is also a cultural mediator. She's from Ukraine, and it helps a lot. And I share it as a good practice. Also, we have a social worker, and we have two psychologists, which is from their origin. So native speaking, so specialists actually, professionals who are also part of the community. I believe this is the best way to deliver the service. Of course, part of the team is also includes Bulgarian specialists, Bulgarian professionals who actually knows very well the health system, social system, and our cultural specific things. Guest speakers are important because we obviously cannot cover all the needs and hot topics while they emerge. And of course, as I said, a little bit external supervisor who can provide help and support to the professional teams and to take care of the mental health of the professional teams against burnout and secondary trauma, since The stories we hear are not easy to bear, and many women suffer serious conditions as depression and anxiety attacks. And actually, since they left part of their families and sons or husbands in Ukraine, and they're fighting, so the crisis situations are not easy to cope with. So a little bit about the role of each member of the team. Facilitator or leader of the center, of course, leads group activities, manages group dynamics, encourages participation, creates safe discussions, and ensures confidentiality, of course. A cultural mediator helps with outreach activities, supports communication, and of course builds trust, promote inclusion, and facilitates cultural understanding. Caseworkers, they conduct needs assessment, develop support plans, coordinate referrals, follows up with participants, and supports integration goals. And psychologist, mental health specialist, provides mental health support, supports trauma recovery, offers individual or group sessions, could be few, we have two psychologists, and strengthens resilience, support staff well-being. As I said, these psychological and psychotherapeutic sessions, they are led in a Russian or Ukrainian language. So there is no barrier of, these sessions do not include translator, third party, which could be challenges in this in the psychotherapeutic process. But if needed, you can use a translator, of course. Right, some examples of activities, psychosocial support groups, cultural orientation. These are fun activities. We organize town excursions, we visit places, we show people all sorts of possibilities our city can offer for women, but also for their children. Job readiness and soft skills training, of course. We had this digital tool which helps women to create their CV, but also we support them through role play and through preparing them for job interviews and searching. Supported them to search work here in Bulgaria, as well as to maintain their professional degrees and skills. So eventually, if they go back to Ukraine, to be able to reintegrate as quickly as possible. Individual mental health through individual psychotherapeutic sessions and employment support. We prepared a map of all the possibilities, employments in Bulgaria, which offer jobs for foreigners, for Ukrainians. So we facilitate their access to Bulgarian labor market and community events. Of course, we organize different community events, including clothes bazaars for the fashion bazaars, some products when we have this kind of different activities for the 1st of June, which is International Day of Children's and things like that. Okay. So key takeaways. So it's safe, it's inclusive, community-based, trauma-informed, multidisciplinary, empowering. We combine useful knowledge and healing with joy. We try to create a relaxed and safe atmosphere so women can feel free and feel at home when they are in a different country.
Thank you so much, Maria, for your presentation.
Thank you.
We will pass the floor to Daria. Otherwise, you would like to add something at this moment, or we will wait for Q&A session.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, Daria, the floor is yours. Creating safe spaces and inclusive environments within Holistic Support Center. Please tell us more about it.
Yes, good morning. My name is Daria, and I work as a psychotherapist at the Ethnopsychological Center of Laboratorio di Gruppo Analisi in Rome. So, building on the Holistic Support Center model that has been introduced by my colleague, I would like to focus on what it concretely takes to make such a center safe and inclusive for women who use it. So you can pass to the next slide, Olga. Thank you. I will do so through the experience of our integrated center developed in Rome, combining women and girls safe space and an ethnopsychological clinical center, both operating inside a building of the local municipality. So in the next minutes, I will describe how the center was implemented, the role of the city network in sustaining it, and the operational choices that, in our experience, make the difference between a space that is technically open and a space that is actually used. So we can pass to the next slide. Some information about the context. The center opened in 2023 and works specifically with Ukrainian women and girls who fled war. The project is built around the idea of holistic support, bringing together in a single space the different bio-psychosocial dimension of a woman's well-being. Psychological support, social support, employment orientation, and empowerment activities. Instead of asking the women to navigate fragmented services on their own. So our work is transcultural and anchored in two principles. First, that safety, physical and emotional, is the precondition for psychosocial support. Second, that the women and girls are not passive recipients of assistance, but they direct their own process of care and well-being. So we call this a holistic support center. We can pass to the next slide because it integrates two distinct but interconnected components inside the same building. The first is the safe space for women and girls. This is a place where women and adolescent girls can come freely, without appointment, without referral, and without disclosing the reason for their visit. Inside, there are leisure and recreational activities, but also informal learning workshops. like Italian conversation, stretching and yoga class, workshop, group sharing session, and information meeting on local services and bureaucratic procedure. There is also a safe area for children so that mothers can take part without leaving them. The second component is the ethnopsychological clinical center. This is the clinical service, let's say. Again, it's free. We provide psychotherapeutic care delivered by appropriate trained psychotherapist, always accompanied, if it's necessary, by linguistic and cultural mediation. It is currently opening at the maximum capacity of its team, which 15 patients in active care and actually a waiting list. What I want to underline is the connection between these two components. The safe space is what makes the clinical center reachable and vice versa. Many of the women who are now in psychotherapeutic care first came to the safe space simply to attend a yoga class, to bring their child to the play area, or to ask about a resident permit. And what we have experienced is that the first encounter most of the time is not clinical. It is social, informal, low threshold. It is in this informal space that suffering become visible, and that situation of domestic violence, gender-based violence, or risk of trafficking and sexual or labor exploitation can begin to emerge. So without the safe space, many of these women would not have walked into a clinical service on their own. Next slide, I would like to spend a moment on how this was practically built, because the implementation choices matter as much as the model itself. The starting point was an agreement signed in September 2023 between our cooperativa, Laboratorio di Gruppo Analisi, and the second municipality of Rome. The municipality granted us the use of a public-owned space free of charge, for both the safe space and the clinical center. We then took possession of the premises and carried out the renovation and the setup of the rooms. But the fact that the center is physically located inside the municipality building, we think is not logistical detail. It carries three concrete implications. First of all, it signals public legitimacy for women who are unsure whether they are entitled to access services, working into a building marked with the institutional seal of the City of Rome reduce the fear of being illegitimate or out of place. Secondly, it ensures the project in the local public infrastructure. We are not a separate service reality operating in parallel. We are inside the city social services architecture. Third, it facilitates referrals in both directions. The municipality social service know us, and they can send beneficiaries to us. We know them, and we can refer back when a case requires their intervention. In parallel with the physical setup, we built the network in the city. From the very beginning, with the support of IRC, we established a working relationship with the social services of the second municipality, and also with the reception structures hosting Ukrainian family, the so-called in Italia CAS, which is an acronym for Extraordinary Reception Center, and SAI, another acronym for Reception and Integration System, and with other associations active in the territory. So what about the city network in the next, yes, in this slide, the holistic support center, as you understood, does not work in isolation. It works because it sits inside a network of city actors, like the municipality of Rome, the department, the second, sorry, municipality of Rome, the Department of Social Policies of the City of Rome, IRC, reception structures, TSMRA, which is the child and adolescent mental health and rehabilitation services, which is, as you can imagine, a critical bridge for minors with specific developmental or clinical needs, and local association and gender-based violence specialized services, to which we refer cases that require dedicated intervention. And so this is this network what allows the center to function as a gateway rather than as an endpoint. Most of our beneficiaries do not stay with us forever. Our role is to help them reach the services they need and make sure that nothing is lost in translation along the way. So what make it safe and inclusive in practice? In the next slide, three operational choices have made the difference for us. First, voluntariness, all the way down. As I said, no appointment is required, no referral, no proof of status. Women are not asked why they came, and they are not asked to present necessarily a problem. And second is structural cultural mediation. I know that colleague from Panch will zoom on it today, but it's important also for us to stress that one linguistic cultural mediator covers the role across both the safe space and the clinical center. And the fact that is the same person in both settings is not a logistical detail. It configures a specific mediation device tailored to this integrated context. So the mediator becomes the continuity that the women experiences between the informal first encounter in the safe space and the clinical work that may follow. She is, in operational terms, the bridge between these settings. And for this reason, she is also actively take part to the clinical supervision that we do all together. So her role also goes beyond the translation, because she helps read the meaning of what is being said and of what is being left unsaid. And without her, even a perfectly translated clinical intake would miss the point. Last but not least, beneficiary lead. Several of the activities inside the safe space are not only delivered to the women, but they are co-constructed, co-designed with them, and partly facilitated also by them. I would like to show you one or two pathways to give you a concrete example of one of the beneficiaries of the center. Maybe I don't have time to do both, but I can show you, for example, the pathway of a girl that we have called Olena, who is 30 years old. She's a mother of two. She's living in a reception center for over a year, and she first came to the safe space because a friend told her there was a free Italian conversation workshop. So for the first weeks, she barely spoke. She came, she listened, she left. After about a month, she brought herbal teas from her home region and offered to co-lead a session about this herbal workshop. That single shift from participant to facilitator changed her relationship to the place. And it was through the trust built in that group that she later asked the caseworker for help with her son's school enrollment. So she did not arrive with a problem to present, and she came for a conversation class, and she rest unfolded at her own pace. So in order to close, I would like to leave you with a synthesis of what this experience has taught us so far. So safety in our model is not the absence of threat. I think I am on the next slide, Olga, sorry. Yes, thank you. So safety is not the absence of threat, it's predictability, recognition, and the right to choose one's own path of disclosure. Inclusion is not the absence of barriers, but is the active construction of legitimacy through cultural mediation and through co-leadership with the beneficiaries. And our experience is that an holistic support center is not in the end a place, it is a node in a city network, and it works only to the extent that it is embedded in the public infrastructure around it. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Daria, for your presentation. Now we will invite Ginevra Musella to present mental health and ethnopsychology approaches.
Okay, thank you so much, Olga. I'm Ginevra, and as you already mentioned, I work as a psychotherapist within an ethnopsychiatric framework at the Centro Pench. And today I'll talk about the relationship between culture, trauma, and mental health through an ethnopsychiatric perspective. I'd like to start from the idea that mental health care always takes place inside cultural worlds. I mean that every person experiences suffering, identity, emotions, and healing through the cultural context in which they live. However, many clinical models often assume that suffering and healing are universal and self-evident, as if mental illness could be understood in the same way everywhere and for everyone. But ethnopsychiatry challenges this assumption. As George Devereux wrote, no human experience of suffering exists outside culture. This means that culture is not something secondary or external to mental health care, but it is part of the way suffering itself is experienced, is expressed and understood. And just as a brief note, Devereux is considered the father of ethnopsychiatry, much like Freud for psychoanalysis. And he developed this perspective mainly between France and the United States in the post-war period. And this is not neutral either, I think, because it already shows us that ideas of care are always historically and culturally situated. So what exactly is ethnopsychiatry? It combines psychology and anthropology. On one side, psychology helps us understand emotions, psychic suffering, and individual experiences. While on the other side, anthropology helps us understand cultural systems, social meanings, and collective worlds. So its aim is not simply to adapt care to cultural differences. Rather, ethnopsychiatry recognizes that culture somehow structures many dimensions of human experience, identity, emotions, relationships, meanings attributed to illness, ways of suffering, and expectations about healing and care. In other words, culture shapes how people understand themselves and their suffering. And this approach also helps clinicians avoid two opposite risks. On one side, the first risk is reducing suffering only to psychological or psychiatric categories, ignoring the cultural and social context of the person. And the second risk is reducing suffering only to culture, as if every difficulty could be explained exclusively by cultural difference. So ethnopsychiatry tries to maintain a sort of balance between these two dimensions. And this reflection leads to another important point, and that mental health care can become violent when culture is ignored. Without cultural understanding, behaviors may be misinterpreted, people may be pathologized, and diagnosis may silence personal and collective meanings. What appears strange or pathological in one context may have a completely different meaning in another cultural world. And this can have serious consequences. For example, culturally unfamiliar behaviors may lead to psychiatric hospitalization, or migrant parents may be judged as inadequate simply because their educational practices are different from dominant norms, or even reactions linked to trauma, displacement, and loss may be misunderstood and interpreted only as psychiatric symptoms. And in all these situations, diagnosis risks becoming a form of institutional violence, because when institutions impose meanings without listening to the person's cultural world, care may stop being protective and become somehow oppressive. At this point, language becomes central. And let's start with verbal language. Verbal language is never neutral. I mean that words, expressions, idioms, and even clinical categories make sense only within specific cultural worlds. The concept of trauma, for example, is not self-evident everywhere. In some contexts, it emerges the idioms of suffering do not translate directly into psychiatric categories. Examples include expressions such as Nitkubon, Shege, and Bicaloro. These forms of expression contain cultural meanings that cannot be fully understood through literal translation alone. In fact, some forms of distress may be expressed more through the body, social withdrawal, or spiritual language, than through categories like depression or PTSD. In other words, language organizes experience within cultural frameworks of meaning. And at this point, we move beyond verbal language, because violence often breaks the possibility of speaking. And especially in contexts of torture, war, and extreme suffering, language may fragment or disappear completely. And when words become impossible, the body may become the primary site of expression. So suffering may
Sorry, we can't hear you now.
naturally specific idioms of distress.
Okay, that's good. That's
Oh.
good. Now it's going
No?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yes, I was saying that for this reason, listening in clinical practice cannot be limited only to verbal communication. And this is also why cultural mediators can play such an important role, as Daria already mentioned before. And this is about the next slide. And the cultural mediator is not simply a translator, but he represents another cultural world entering the clinical space. And they also represent the legitimacy of the patient's language and symbolic universe. And most importantly, they create the possibility of being understood without being reduced. So their presence transforms the therapeutic space itself. Meanings become negotiable, language regains depth, and cultural knowledge becomes clinically relevant. The therapeutic encounter is no longer based on a single dominant framework, but thanks to the cultural mediators, it becomes a space when different worlds can meet. And as Tobina Tan said, to welcome another language is to welcome another world. And this sentence, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. And this sentence, I think, captures very well the ethical dimension of ethnopsychiatry, because welcoming another language also means recognizing the dignity and complexity of another way of existing. And yes, to conclude, ethnopsychiatry reminds us that mental suffering never exists outside culture. Care, therefore, requires continuous attention to language, power, identity, social context, and symbolic meanings. But ethnopsychiatry also asks clinicians to question their own position. It asks us to reflect on our cultural assumptions, on our ideas of normality and pathology, and on the ways institutions define suffering and care. For this reason, ethnopsychiatry is not only an approach for the so-called foreign patient, but somehow every clinical encounter is culturally situated. Every interaction between patient and clinician involves different histories, meanings, and frameworks of interpretation. Perhaps this is the central idea of ethnopsychiatry, that care begins when the person's world is allowed to exist within the therapeutic encounter. And with this, I'd like to conclude. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ginevra, for your presentation. Now we are in the Q&A session. Does anybody wants to ask something now? Because in the chat, there is no question at this moment. At least I can't see anything. But let me look at the audience. Is there any raised up hand now? Yeah, feel free to ask something regarding the Holistic Support Center or maybe WISE project in general. Yeah, maybe not questions, maybe some comments, maybe some reflections. For me, it's a kind of good opportunity for regional and local authorities, for municipalities and NGOs to connect with each other and to create some kind of safe space for any migrants in the European Union. And Maria, yes, please share with us what.
I would like just to add how important is a trauma-informed approach, which means that we need to understand the choices of women, although sometimes we believe that these choices are self-destructive sometimes, but understanding how traumatic effects influence human psyche, human behavior, human thinking is very important in order to accept, be patient, and be tolerant towards different choices. So the important, very important role plays the training, initial training of the staff, ongoing support, supervision in order to discuss each cases, like my colleagues pointed out. And because we also talked about non-Ukraine, non-homogeneous group, just to mention that it is very difficult to gather together different nationalities. Just keep it in mind that you need a unique and how to say, individual approach in each situation. Yes.
Thank you so much, Maria. Does anybody wants to add something? If not, if we don't have any questions, I also would like to take one more minute to introduce everyone to join to our next webinar series. We are expecting to have the second one on 26th of May, the third one on 8th of June, and the fourth one on 22nd of June. All details regarding the speakers and description of the session you will find also by scanning the QR code, or I will send it here in the chat. And also I would like to raise the poll with one quiz just to assess what is your level of knowledge. Did it increase? Did this webinar improve your knowledge of the Holistic Support Center? And yeah, please answer to this poll. And as a final activity to this webinar, it will be survey that you can also compile by scanning the QR code and share with us your feedback about the session or any. Thank you, Mira, for the survey link. I also wanted to send it in the chat. Exactly, maybe some of you cannot scan the QR code. At least you have this link, and we will be very happy to hear any suggestions or recommendations from your side. Yeah, the time is perfect. Now it's 2 p.m. and I will stop to share my screen. We have last 1 minute only for sharing anything you want to regarding this first session. If there is any comments and suggestions, we will finish our first webinar, WISE webinar, and hope we will see you on 25, if I'm not mistaken, let me check. Yeah, 26, of May during our second session. Thank you so much to everyone for participating and for answering all our questions and surveys. It will be very helpful, and we hope we'll see you during the next session.
Thank you, Olga.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.